Right. Just going to get that up now. There we go, nearly ready. I thought it was going to be ready and it's decided not to do it. Right, if you just bear with me 1 minute. There you go. And it's over to you, Andy. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thanks, Gemma, and thanks for agreeing in advance to advance the slides for me. Most helpful. So as it clearly says on the screen there, we're Arcus, which is actually Latin for rainbow, if anybody's wondering where we got the name from. And essentially we focus on counselling, LGBT awareness, and we're an LGBT support service as well, providing various levels of support that we'll go into in the next few slides. If we could have the next one, please, Gemma. So we're what's called a community interest company. And so we're not a charity. We are a trading company, but we trade on what's called a not-for-profit basis. So nobody makes a profit, nobody gets paid. Everybody that works on all of our services, which include the support line, the awareness education, and the other bits and pieces that we're going to look at, nobody's paid. We're entirely run by volunteers. Essentially, primarily, we were set up to work with LGBT plus people in and around Darlington and Durham. But interestingly, of course, we can't discriminate. So actually, our services are open to everybody, and it's really important to remember that. And of course, all of our people that provide the services are qualified and DBS checked. If we could have the next one, please, Gemma. Thanks. So one of our core businesses is counselling. And for those of you that aren't quite sure, it's a confidential helping activity done on a one-to-one basis, where we actually work with somebody to help them face issues, get resolutions, move on from where they are to where they want to be. Anyone can access the counselling service. The only caveat is that it is for people who are on a low or limited income, so people who are on benefits and can't afford to pay privately. Usually we take people from age 13 and over, because of course they can consent through the GILIC process. But we do see people younger than that if we've got parental consent in place there, which hopefully sometimes we do. So at the start of the counselling, there's an initial assessment with the counsellor. The interesting thing is we don't charge fees. We do give you some information if you want to make a voluntary contribution, and we just suggest £1 per session. If you don't or can't make that contribution, that's fine. Your counsellor doesn't know, the session will still go ahead as planned. That's just to help us offset our running costs. We're quite pleased to say we've got very short waiting lists. In fact, at the minute, we don't have a waiting list. And the areas that we sort of work with, obviously LGBT plus is our specialty, where we can work with anybody who is experiencing self-harm, suicidal behaviour, and pretty much anything else that you would bring to a generalist counselling service. And I think the key thing about our service that makes us stand out is the fact that we're quite relaxed with the way that we do it. We don't do white coats and shirts and ties. If we could have the next one, please, Gemma. So one of our other services is the support line, because we found that when COVID started hitting people and getting to appointments was difficult, actually getting out and seeing our people and our people coming in to see us became quite difficult. So we launched a support line initially for people to call us. And then, of course, as COVID deepened and got worse, we actually realized that sometimes it's helpful for us to call people. So the support line runs Monday to Saturday currently, 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. The number's there on the screen, so you can ring us and speak to one of our trained counsellors. Or if you would prefer us to call you, you can pop online there on that link that's there and book a call back with one of our team. We'll give you a call. And kind of what we look at in support line, it isn't just LGBT issues, because there's a lot of issues facing a lot of people and a lot of different groups at the moment. So you can actually call us about anything. We've got a lovely signposting and referral service there. we signpost to a little organisation called Healthwatch. Actually, Gemma, you might have heard of them. But the key thing is that we can actually use that support line to support people who may not be quite ready for counselling, but still need some income, some input and some support there. If we could have the next slide, please, Gemma. Thank you. So one of the other important things that we do is actually giving people a voice. So about 18 months ago, we got together with Darlington Borough Council and the police, and we came up with the idea of the Arcus Forum. And what that is, it's a monthly meeting, sort of chaired by us, the police and the council jointly, and members of the LGBT community. It's open to anybody who's LGBT plus or an ally that lives in or around Darlington. In fact, it's open to anybody from any area, but of course the representatives from the local council we have can only speak about Darlington Borough Council issues, and similarly with the police. And it's a discussion and action group. So to give you some idea of what we're kind of doing at the moment, we've got a little bit of a campaign running where we're trying to encourage organisations to ask their staff, on a voluntary basis of course, to pop their pronouns in an email, because one of the biggest things that can affect some of the people we work with is actually being misgendered. So that's one of the tasks we're doing. We're also looking at gender neutral toilet guides and one or two other bits and pieces. It's a nice informal atmosphere. If anybody wants to pop along to that, our contact details are at the end, and of course they'll be in the post. Just drop us a line and we can get you hooked up with that. The next meeting is actually February the 12th, I think. So get in touch and we'll get you linked up there. It's really important to get your voice out there, I think. If we could have the next slide, please, Gemma. So as I mentioned at the top, one of the things we do is we actually deliver awareness education. And this is sort of to give people an understanding of the issues that LGBT people face on a daily basis. We cover things like equality and diversity, hate crime, stereotyping. And the interesting thing about the training is it's actually written by people in the community. So every 6 months we go along to the forum, we deliver the training and we say, community, what do you want us to go and talk to people about? So it's very real, very up to date. We can deliver that with standalone sessions, usually over Zoom, or we can do bigger sessions as needed. There is a charge for the training, unfortunately, but if you have a look on the website, it's incredibly good value for money. And we offer discounts for charities as well. We just quite recently just been awarded CPD status as an organisation, so we're registered as a CPD centre, which is really good process. If we could have the next slide, please, Gemma, thanks. So how would you access us? Essentially, it's anything goes. You can give us a call. Our numbers are later on in the slides. We have 2 phone lines. There's the office line, which is open from 10 AM till 6 PM, and the support line on an evening, 6 PM till 10 PM. Both of those are Monday to Saturday. You can email us. You can contact us through our website. If you want to make a direct referral, there's a little form on the website. It's quite simple. We've tried to keep it as easy as possible so that anybody can fill it in, because of course you could be referring yourself, a family member, your GP could be referring you, a nurse, a practitioner, a friend, anybody can refer anybody. Okay. You don't need to go to your GP to access our therapy service or indeed any of our other services there. If we could have the next slide, please. I think we've got some questions booked in for later. Yeah. So we can just pop to the next one. So those are our contact details. And when I mentioned earlier that we do other forms of social support, like everybody else on the planet, we have a Facebook page there at Arcus Darlington. On there are the links to 2 specific groups currently that we have set up, one in Darlington and one in Shildon in County Durham. We're looking to set up other groups in other areas. Our Facebook page is monitored pretty much round the clock as best we can. People can interact with us through Facebook, through Twitter. We're starting to do Zoom group sessions as well. so that people can actually get together, because isolation is one of the key things that we want to tackle. So our email address is up there, our website is up there. Whichever method you choose to get in touch with us, it doesn't matter. Just get in touch is the key message, really. You know, we can handle your whatever inquiry by whatever method you choose. I think that's actually the last slide, Gemma. So that's kind of our sort of overview.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Andy. Well, I know we've got questions as well, so I'm going to hand you over now to Jade and Rachel, who have got some questions lined up for you. But that was fantastic. That was a really good, very quick overview, but it encapsulates everything about the service. So I think, Jade, you've got some questions first, haven't you? Yeah.
Yep. And my first one has to do with the pandemic, which is, have you seen an increase in your services because of the pandemic? And do you think there's a particular reason for it?
Yeah, we have. I mean, the support line was primarily set up because in the transition point from doing face-to-face appointments, which of course, obviously we can't do now, there was a slight gap where we were struggling to get hold of people, and we thought there's a gap here, people need to get hold of us. So the biggest change is actually bringing in the support line, and then realizing that just incoming calls and being there for people to ring wasn't quite enough, because what we actually found, because of COVID, levels of anxiety, depression, loneliness, isolation increased exponentially, and sometimes it's very difficult to pick up the phone and say, hey, I need some help. So people can do it through the website now, which is a lot more user-friendly for some people. Yeah.
My next question sort of also relates to the pandemic situation, which is, do you think there are more challenges for those who identify as LGBT+?
Absolutely, there are. Yeah. When we look at the problems that our communities kind of bring to us, isolation, social anxiety are big things. And what we have now is essentially where we're in a position of lockdown. So you may have somebody who lives on their own, who already struggled with going out, but now that's just compounded by there's less opportunity to go out, there's less opportunity to socialize. We've also got the situation where we may have people who are not out at home, that can't be the genuine self at home, and again are trapped in that environment. Also, as well, the things that affect everybody, the financial aspects, the fear, you know, the general anxiety in the whole of the population is quite high, and of course that just compounds already social anxieties that a lot of LGBT plus people have.
Yeah. I mean, there was a point there you made about people who haven't come out, who may be in a home environment where they're not open or able to talk to anyone, and that must be really lonely. I can see why there's definitely impacts there on those the LGBT plus community, especially.
Absolutely. And you know, I think if you imagine the scenario where if you're out, you might be able to, and I say out as in geographically out of the home, and you want to access a service like ours, you might be able to make a phone call. But getting privacy in a home with your family could be very difficult to do that. We all know what it's like when the dogs are barking, the kids are crying, or the parents are shouting, or the brothers and sisters are fighting. And we don't have that privacy to be able to make that phone call. And that's why it's important that we have other ways that people can access us. Because it's a lot more discreet to pop us an email, interact with us on Facebook or Twitter, or even request a call back when you can talk.
And that's really good. Yeah, you've given lots of options there, which is absolutely fantastic for people. So that's really reassuring. And I think, Rachel, have you got some questions now?
I have, yeah. So a similar question, but following on from what Jade's just asked. So obviously we've touched on that you offer the social support to anyone who identifies LGBT plus right now, but because of the pandemic, it's sort of harder for people to keep connected. Why is your social support offer so important right now, and what impact do you think that the support can have on the lives of people who are, you know, like we've said, really feeling lonely and isolated?
Yeah, I think primarily it's about the ability to reach out and the ability to reach out in different ways. We used to offer a walk-in service. Obviously, we can't do that now. And I think, you know, that ability to be able to reach out in pretty much any way you can is really important. Because as we've discussed there, you know, a lot of the issues that the community faces are now compounded because people are stuck at home and maybe losing their jobs or living with family who are losing their jobs. So all the stresses of life are suddenly amplified. And I think when we're talking about the impact, to give you an example, sort of from the work that we've done in this last week, we had a call from a caller actually just as we were closing. And actually the difference was that had we not have intervened, the end result for that caller might not have been what it was. And that's the reality. When you look at the fact that LGBT people are more predisposed to mental health issues, self-harm, suicidal behaviour, it's really key that we actually get to people that need us before things go wrong, for want of a better phrase. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you're right. Where everyone's feeling it, it's definitely more amplified for those in that community. So yeah, really good that they can reach out in whichever way suits them at any time. Well, not at any time, but you know,
almost any time.
Almost any time.
Yeah. What was the next question?
Yeah, Rachel, I think you've got another
Sorry.
question. Yeah, it's all right, it's fine.
So yeah, the next one, Andy, I think you touched on it already, but can family members or carers get in touch for any information or support that they might need?
Absolutely, they can. Yeah. When we're working with anybody, we look at the people around them, because sometimes it's the case where the person that we're working with, so to give you an example, perhaps a young trans person, has fantastic family support and they're all clued up and they have all their answers, and mum and dad or whoever the caregivers are really supportive. But sometimes it isn't the case. And we obviously are working with the individual, but we need to remember that that individual's journey can affect the people around them. And that could be their partner, their children, their parents, their siblings, anybody. So in actual fact, you know, we always ask the question, quite often we get parents bringing young people to the service, and we make a point of asking the question, actually, are you okay as well? Do you need any support? And more often than not, the answer is yes. So that support's there for families and caregivers as well. We do have on the website, which we're currently building, there's quite a bit on there at the minute, but it is getting bigger by the day. We've got support pages on there for people around what, you know, some information and advice for parents when a young person comes out, information and advice for a young person who wants to come out, articles on there and signposted to other useful resources around binding, for example, how to access gender clinics and things of the like. So we try and attack it from, I think the buzzword is holistic, but we try and look at it from every angle. And of course, by delivering the training, paradoxically, we hope that actually that's going to make environments better for people who are LGBT. So then, of course, reduce the issues that we see coming through in the therapy service.
Yeah, that's helpful, because I think it's that wider circle of people around the person that's initially needing the support, just to, like you say, awareness for them as well. Yeah,
and of course, you know, the people around the person that we're working with, they're that person's support network when we're not there. So we need to make sure that they're okay, in order that they can help us work with the person that we're working with.
The next question up is, could you tell us any more information about the Arcus forum, and specifically also any changes that have come as a result from it?
Absolutely, yeah, I'm quite proud of this one, I don't mind admitting. Not entirely Arcus's work, but the point of the forum is to give people a voice. It's open, as I say, to anybody who is LGBT plus or an ally. If they want to join, pop us an email, we'll send you the Zoom link. It's once a month, and it actually gives people a voice. And interestingly, we've seen more people attend through Zoom, bizarrely. We thought the numbers might drop off when we're not meeting in person and offering tea and bickies. But I think the fact that people can be at home and be more safe, secure, feel more like they might want to engage. Of course, also if you have childcare or transport issues, and of course we're in lockdown, so thank goodness for Zoom, really. In terms of the achievements that's made, I think one of the biggest things that we've actually made is actually given people a voice. Because to my knowledge, there are other groups that do bits, but I think specifically for LGBT people, we did some work on the Purple Flag project with Darlington Borough Council. So we did an independent questionnaire as to what the nighttime economy and town centre venues are like for LGBT people, and gave that to the council. What actually happened, as I understand it, the Purple Flag process didn't actually take account of LGBT people specifically, but Darlington Borough Council has, based on the work that we've done with the forum. And actually Darlington Borough Council were the first organisation to start putting pronouns on their emails after our current, I want to say vendetta, but vendetta is not the right word. Campaign, I think, is the right word. So, you know, and of course, you know, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, that's really important, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's incredible. And that just goes to show the impact of the forum. But by letting people have a voice, they're able to work with you and make actual changes to the area that they live in, which is amazing. It really is amazing. Yeah,
took some putting together, but we got it.
Yeah.
I think,
no, well done.
The next thing will be the similar thing in County Durham. That's the next mission.
Yeah.
So if anyone from County Durham Council's watching, get in touch.
Yeah. Okay, going back to the counselling service, I want to ask, we kind of already went over this, but just to reiterate, can you tell us why counselling might be helpful for anyone who might be watching this as never received it before?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a little bit of a misnomer about counselling, and people think that it's something that's done to you. And it isn't, it's something that's done with you. Counselling is collaborative, and we don't give answers, we don't give advice. We work with you to help you find your own answers and your own advice. And the difference is that if you go to citizens' advice, for example, and you're told what to do, there's no work on you. It's almost, that decision lacks a bit more weight. But if you've actually wrestled with it yourself over a number of weeks in a supportive environment, that decision is going to be a lot more meaningful and probably more close to what you actually want to do. And of course, the interesting thing that with support line, we don't do counselling with support line, but we still use those counselling skills to actually make an environment where people feel supported to talk about their stuff, their journey, whatever it is they want to bring. And I think the important thing to remember is, you know, as I said, people see it as something that happens to you, like going to the dentist to have a filling. I'm going to have some counselling. And it's actually, when you get into it, you realise that the approach is totally different to a lot of other services. First of all, no waiting list, which is fantastic. I might be eating my words if we get inundated with referrals, but we'll just work longer hours. I'm sure my staff would love to do that. But I mean, that's the key thing. And of course, the difference is that we work with a lot of people that have come from, that have been with Talk and Changes, for example, and they've been referred there because they've come out as trans, and being trans isn't a mental health issue. It isn't at all. And I think having that understanding about the problems that the community face, because so many of our volunteers are members of the community themselves and have a lived experience, is quite unique, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good, that the way that you've explained counselling there, because for someone who's never received counselling, it can be very daunting making that first step to go into an appointment. But by you explaining a little bit there about what that actually means and what they'll experience when they sign up is really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's all a bit about sort of the balance of power, in so much as you know, people seem to think that the counsellor is sort of here and has all the answers and is the all-knowing, all-seeing, omnipotent person, and that isn't the case. if anything, we're down here because you're the expert on you.
Yeah.
You know, if to use you as an example, Gemma, if I may, I don't know what it's like to be Gemma. You do. You're the
Yeah.
expert on what it's like to be Gemma.
Yeah, no.
And we actually use that from the outset. You know, we make that quite clear that it is a journey, but it's your journey that we're going on with you. We're not leading you. You're doing the journey, and we're standing next to you.
Yeah. No.
Can I just ask just something on that, Andy? Is that is the counselling being done only over the phone at the moment, or have people got the option to do, you know, maybe a Zoom session with the counselling, just in case anyone's wondering how that's?
Absolutely. When we do, when we get the referral in, the first thing we do, all referrals are acknowledged in 48 hours. So in 48 hours, we'll get an acknowledgement email from our clinical lead, who is fantastic. And they will actually say, you know, do you want to be contacted by email, by phone? Would you prefer to be contacted? We can offer Skype, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, phone work, possibly smoke signals. But it's whatever the client wants, yeah, because our ethos is actually on the client has control. It centers around them. So, you know, we might get some people who really like Zoom, but then might be having a bit of an off week and don't particularly want to be on camera. So we can revert to phone. It's what that client wants at that time. There's no set rule for that.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So yeah, I've got my next question to ask. So you've told us about the LGBT plus awareness training that Arcus offers. I'm just wondering if you could tell a little bit more about what that is, and how it's beneficial to people, how it can make a difference to those.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, the training is written by our community. So, for example, at the moment, the content includes actually defining what LGBT is, and more importantly, what it isn't, because people think it is just 4 letters, and there's a plus on the end there for a reason, because there's an awful lot more than 4 letters. We look a little bit about equality and diversity, and how actually protected characteristics like being LGBT plus are intersectional. So you can be LGBT plus and from a particular religion or a cultural background or an age bracket or an ability level. We look at the effect of hate crime, because the hate crime statistics aren't brilliant. When you think that I think the reporting rate is about between 10 and 20%. So when you look at the statistics, you've then got to multiply them by a factor of at least 4. Nobody will ever know the true figure, but that's the current kind of thinking. When you actually see the extent of hate crime and the effect that it can have. So what we actually do is we use exercises and empathy to actually get somebody to understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of LGBT plus hate crime, which unfortunately tends to make a lot of people quite angry, upset. And I'm okay with that, because that's how people feel when they've been a victim of hate crime. So we look at sort of what hate crime is, how to report it. Currently at the minute also we're looking at the levels of mental health, because there's some staggering statistics for young LGBT people, that I think it's 48% of young LGBT people experience self-harm and 51% experience suicidal thoughts, which is a worrying statistic. And I think anecdotally I can tell you that those statistics are probably not the true reflection, they're higher. So, of course, by doing this, we actually enable people who work with people. So, for example, GP surgeries, we've had quite a few GP surgeries who've done the training. And of course, we all know the scenario where you walk into, where you used to walk into a GP surgery. It doesn't happen now, does it?
I know.
You know, but you're greeted with, "Morning, sir, good morning, madam." And of course, that's great if you are a sir or a madam. But if you're non-binary and you're neither of those things, before you've done anything else with that patient, that customer, that client, you've already upset the apple cart from the first second. And what it actually does is it enables people to actually work effectively with LGBT people, because there's a lot of instances where services will say, yes, we practice equality and diversity, but in actual fact, when you get down to the bare bones of it, they don't, as well as they should. And of course, that's good benefit for the I think the next one's the 17th of February. And of course, you know, so from a booker point of view, from the people who book the training, they get the quality training, the CPD, delivered by somebody that's qualified to do that. We know that it's real world. We know it's what the LGBT community in Darlington want us to tell people. So we know that that's going to be beneficial for them working with their LGBT plus people. And as I say, the offset is that we hope to reduce the problems that LGBT people actually do face. I think we're about 80 years from that point, but, you know, one person at a time.
Yes, Andy, you mentioned GP surgeries. What sort of, I mean, is it open to any organisations? Could it be sort of community groups that might find that of benefit?
Absolutely.
Volunteers, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've delivered this to social workers, teachers, to students, to police officers, to the fire service. We did it with the 700 Club. We've done it with Alzheimer's Society. We've done it with a pub in the town centre, which was absolutely amazing. It was the first pub to actually, that I'm aware of, that actually had a gender neutral toilet, which was just fantastic. So anybody can access this, private individuals. So towards the end of the training, we actually look at how we put all of what we've learned into practice. And we look at that from two different angles, because if you're an organisation, you're going to have different requirements as to what you do with that knowledge than an individual might. So it's actually tailored for anybody. Anybody can access it. And the interesting thing is, quite often, of course, with our volunteers and other members from the community, we actually get people who are LGBT plus that are on the training, and they say, well, wow, I didn't know that. And they've lived in the community for 30, 40, 50 years. You know, and I think everybody's got something to learn at some point.
So beneficial to lots of different.
Absolutely, anybody can book. Individuals, groups of up to 100.
Wow.
Anybody that wants to give us money, feel free. We'll be...
Brilliant. No, yeah, very good examples of where that training's already had an impact, which is excellent. Yeah.
And is it me or Jade? I didn't know if you had one last one before
I think you've got this one, and then Jade's got the last one.
Oh, okay. Just so the question that I've got here, what is Arcus's biggest achievement or highlight to date?
I bet that's a hard one.
Well, it isn't. It isn't. Because the first thing that popped into my head was staying open. We know that the shelf life for community organisations like ours isn't very long, unless they're lucky enough to have a funder. We're actually self-funding, which is why we charge for the training. That's what pays the bills. So actually the biggest challenge in the last sort of 18 months has been staying open, because like everybody else, we have a team of about sort of 20 therapists, and some people who aren't therapists as well. And actually keeping them okay, keeping them well, keeping them safe, making sure that the service is safe, because suddenly going from having an office space to working like this is a heck of a lot of work. But the interesting thing is, for all that was a massive challenge, bizarrely, it's actually opened us up. So where we were limited, for example, with the therapy service, we had 2 rooms, 40 hours a week, that's 80 hours of therapy that we could maximum do. We're doing double that now, and still have capacity, because of course we can do Zoom sessions. 5 counsellors can be delivering therapy at the same time, and they don't need rooms. So conversely, and paradoxically, it actually, well, I hasten to say it, but it's actually what essentially seemed like a massive challenge. It's actually had a benefit, And of course, the more hours we deliver means the more people that we're helping.
Mm-hmm.
And that's essentially what we're about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think, but certainly the biggest challenge is, I think, like a lot of organisations and businesses, because we are a business, although we're not for profit. So we're a charity in all but name. But staying open and finding those pennies to keep the lights on, so to speak, is being a big challenge. But as I say, that challenge is actually born from that and allowed us to grow. Most noticeably the support line. We couldn't have done that in our current environment. It's an idea that we had, but it was on a back burner, and that has just taken off exponentially. We're falling over ourselves to keep up with demand on that.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Nice to hear a positive come out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, as they say, every cloud has a silver lining. I don't know whether the silver lining justifies the cloud in this case, but
Yeah.
but bizarrely, it has actually, because the different methods that we have of people that can contact us where they couldn't do that before.
Yeah.
I think has made a massive difference as well, because people can message us 24/7, even if it's a couple of hours before we get back to them, which I think is quite important, because anxiety and loneliness tends to trouble you in the worst times,
Yeah.
late at night, weekends when everywhere's shut and all your friends are away or whatever. It doesn't tend to bother you between 9 and 5.
Yeah, it's when you're on your own, isn't it? And probably more likely to have your own thoughts to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Your brain is both your best friend and your worst enemy on some occasions.
Yeah, yeah. And finally, yay.
Finish off the Q&A. Want to ask, what is your one little message left to finish off with for anyone who's watching who needs support?
Get in touch. 3 words, get in touch. I think don't be afraid to get in touch. We don't bite. Well, some of us might if we're hungry, but usually we don't bite. Yeah, reach out. And if you're not confident enough to reach out by ringing us, contact us through the webpage. We'll ring you. We can correspond via email. It's important that a service like ours is only as good as the people that use it. And we want to reach those people. We know they're there, and we're reaching more every day. But we want everybody to literally, that is it, reach out, get in touch.
Yeah.
Don't be alone. You're not alone in this.
Well, thank you so much, Andy. So that was brilliant. So much information there. We could have continued talking for a while there, I think, about everything that the service is offering. But for anybody who's watching, we will share Arcus's details after this on our Facebook page. But we're hoping to tag them so you can actually head straight over to their Facebook page and follow them and support them. And please do share the information in this session with anybody who isn't able to watch us on Facebook, and just shout about Arcus and make sure people can get the support that they need.
Open to anybody.
Perfect, thank you. So please stay on till the end, because somebody has said hi Andy, and there's people watching just in case a question pops up. But what we're going to do now is share some information. We do in this session all the time, we do share information and remind people of some signposting while we're on these. So just as it fitted in so well, as we know, it's LGBT History Month. And LGBT History Month aims to promote the tolerance and raise awareness of the prejudice that LGBT community face. So we felt like it was a great opportunity to raise awareness and mention this important month, but then also to share some information about some other support that's out there, including your contact details again. So I'm going to share a slide very quickly now with everybody. Just bear with me 1 minute. And it's just a selection, not much, many services, but a few here that might be helpful for people. So as I mentioned, it is LGBT History Month. So if you want to find out more about LGBT History Month, you can head over to their website, and this is their web link here that you can use, and go over to their page and have a look at all of the resources. There's educational stuff on there for schools, young people. There's educational stuff on there for organisations. There's stuff that you can download and resources. So that's just a web link for anybody who wants to find out more about that awareness month. Then, of course, there's Arcus, who we've just been speaking to. Just to recap, there's a contact number and an email address there, but there's many more different contact methods. So as I said, we will be sharing their details after the session again anyway, but for anybody who's watching, you could perhaps screenshot this slide and just keep it as well. Then there's Stonewall, which we know is a really big organisation that campaigns for the LGBT community right across the country. They've got lots of help and advice on their website, and they've also got a free telephone number and their website link there, which is www.stonewall.org.uk. Then we've also, can't forget about Heart Gables, which is a really large Teesside-wide LGBT organisation, and that's www.heartgables.org.uk, and there's a telephone number there. So that's a Teesside-based LGBT organisation. And then, of course, for the younger audience who might watch this, or for any family who members who are watching this, who are worried about a younger person who might need a little bit of support, there is Darlington YPOP, which is a support group for young people in the town who identify as LGBT+. And we've shared Michelle's email address and her contact number there. Just if anybody is interested in finding out more about that, you can get in touch with them. But then I think finally it was really important for us just to recap on some of the information that we've got on our website, especially for this week, because as we know, it's Children's Mental Health Week. So Children's Mental Health Week is a really big week to campaign and to raise awareness. And if you didn't see the video that Youthwatch Darlington did last night, I'm really sorry, everybody. I'm going to have to stop because my child is in the background writing a message and holding it up to me, and he wants a pin for my other laptop, and he won't stop until he gets it, and it's distracting me. So Rachel, I'm going to hand it over to you for a second for you to go through this information. Is that okay?
That's fine, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, Children's Mental Health Week. So we'll look at the top thing we've got there, Every Mind Matters, which is a great resource from the NHS. We've talked about it many times on these sessions before, but the reason it's so good is that it's helpful for any member of the family. So whole families can go and have a look on there, and there's information for sort of any age group. Then we've got Place to Be. So there's the link to the Place to Be website there. And Place to Be are the people who are really promoting Children's Mental Health Week. So they've got, I'm trying to remember the theme for this year, and it's completely gone. Jade, can you help? Can you remember what the theme is for this year's? Is it Express Yourself?
Yes, that was it.
Express Yourself, yeah. So there's lots of ideas on there, so you can have a look at that. And then for our own Healthwatch Darlington advice and information section of our website, we've got some support on there as well. I think there's various articles which sort of for young people and supporting their mental health. But we have also in our news section of our website, we've just shared the video that Cooth have been behind their campaign this week that Cooth are doing. And there's a really good video on there in case anybody has missed it. If they don't have social media to access it on Facebook, I've put a link and the video for to watch it on YouTube is on there. And they've got some really good influencers who are just sort of talking about why you shouldn't keep things to yourself, and that why you should speak to people and how it can really help. So that just really sort of echoes what we've been saying throughout the whole session, what Andy's been saying, and just how it can really help people just to talk about things, share it. So yeah, so I've just noticed as I've said that, it's got a few examples of the articles that are on our own advice and information page at the bottom there. So staying safe online, body image, young people looking after your mental health during the pandemic, and young people worried about the future. What can I do and where can I go for help? So please do have a look at those. They're on our own website. I think that's all.
Thank you, Rachel. And sorry about that. Yeah, so thank you so much for going through that. So just a reminder that Youthwatch video with NSPCC and Coof is on our Facebook page, and please go and have a rewatch of that, or share it with somebody you know who might be interested in watching it. But all of that information's there and it's available. So thank you very much for taking part in this session with me, everybody. Thanks very much to Andy. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing from Arcus, and thank you very much to our volunteer Jade, and of course Rachel, my colleague from Healthwatch. So thank you. Just a reminder, next week's Wellbeing Wednesday session, we are going to be joined by Live Well North East Kick. They're a region-wide community interest company that are actually doing a lot of live videos at the moment, giving people access to relaxation sessions, exercise sessions. So they're going to be coming on to talk about all of the virtual stuff that they have on offer for people across the region, including Darlington. So we're really looking forward to hearing from them then. Just a very quick reminder of our contact details in case anybody wants to get in contact with us about any information or have questions. Our email address is info@healthwatchdarlington.co.uk. Our telephone number is 01325 380 145. You can send us a message on social media, or you can send us a letter, and that address is on our website as well, which is www.healthwatchdarlington.co.uk. So thank you very much, everybody, and I look forward to seeing you again soon, Andy, somewhere in the future.
To see you at the forum.
Yeah, hopefully, yes. I do need to get back in touch with you about that. So yeah, I will respond. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.